Hello everyone. Thank you guys so much for stopping by my channel, Southern French Astrology. My name is Billy. I really hope that everyone has had a wonderful day, staying safe, drinking your water, all of those beautiful things. So with that being said, before I get into what I'm going to talk about today, which is we're going to still be talking about the planets. I just kind of wanted to send out some words of encouragement for anyone. I mean, just for everyone in life. I know that we're all going through something, but for anyone who is actively studying astrology, interested in astrology, peeking in on astrology every now and again, I just want to encourage you to just continue to push through, because I know that astrology, even though it's something that I love, at times there's so many layers and it gets complicated so many times, to where sometimes it can be very discouraging. But I continue to push through and persevere. So even though I'm sending that energy out, I'm also talking to myself. Because it gets rough when you're looking at this. It gets rough, but we'll get there. So one step at a time. So with that being said, I'm just gonna kind of touch on where I left off last time, and basically just the whole purpose of this video. The last video that I did, I just kind of went over some of my notes. Because in addition to working on becoming a certified astrologer through the American Federation of Astrologers, I also have other material that I read as well. And this is one of the books that I'm also reading in conjunction with my studies. And this is The Complete Book of Astrology by Chris Brant Riss. Again, as I previously have mentioned, I really, really like the flow of this book. So I am still working on that actively as well. So with all of that being said, I'm just going to, again, pick back up where I left off. So we're going to I'm just going over some of my notes about the planets. And then also we'll say, because I thought about it, Billy, should you really share a video like that? And I had to correct myself. Yeah, because even though this information may be widely available to everyone, everyone doesn't know what we know. And just because something is familiar to us, it may not be familiar to others. So my whole quest in doing this is I just want to share knowledge with all. And if there's somebody that this information can help or anything like that, I'm here for it. That's what I'm here for. So I'm just here to share the different things that I'm learning. So with that being said, we're going to just pick up where we left off at, and we were talking about the planets. So I will say, okay, so there's what is called personal planets, outer planets, and transitional planets. Now, the personal planets are the sun, the moon, even though those are luminaries, but the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And the reason why these are called personal planets, because they're closer to the sun, and it also, they do their orbit more quickly than the other planets. So then the outer planets would be Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Okay, so those are the outer planets. And then there's also what is called generational planets, which would be Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Those are slow moving planets. And the reason why they're called generational planets is because they move so slow in their orbit that there are generations of people that will that were born within certain amounts of time that will have those particular planets all in the same sign. And then there's also what is called transitional planets, which is Jupiter and Saturn. The reason why those are called transitional planets is because they move slower than the personal planets, but they move quicker than the outer planets. Okay, so that touches on that very briefly. And then the next thing we're going to go over is the orbital cycles of the planets. So we know that the sun doesn't, orbit itself. So then the next thing would be moving to the moon. So the moon takes approximately 27.33 days to orbit the sun. Mercury takes 88 days to orbit the sun. Venus takes 225 days to make its orbit around the sun. Mars takes 1 year. Is that 1 year and 11 months. So 688 days. And Jupiter takes 12 years to do the full rotation around the sun or to go through all of the zodiac signs. Saturn takes 29.5 years. Uranus takes 84 years. Neptune takes 165 years. And then last but not least, Pluto takes 248 years to orbit the sun or to go through the full zodiac. Okay, so then now moving on to some more notes that I had here. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to talk about, and again, this is just based off of my notes as I've been going through the book. So I am going to talk about a little bit about each planet, not too in depth, but just kind of like some of my notes pertaining to each of the planets, the sign that it rules, and also the house that it rules. And then we're going to get into that down the road if none of that makes sense. Okay, so the first planet that we're going to talk about, or luminary, is the sun. So the sun, the sign that it rules is Leo. Okay, and then the natural house for Leo, which we're going to get into, or if you are familiar with, somewhat familiar with astrology, like when you're looking at a birth chart, or I can share this. So when you're looking at a birth chart, okay, when I'm talking about houses, the houses would be these, the places where the planet sits in a particular sign, and we'll go through all of that in the near future. Okay, so the sign rulership is Leo, and the natural house that Leo rules is the 5th house. And just a little note here, the sun is the most important planet in your chart. It represents individuality, drive to achieve, self-expression, and internal motivation. Okay, and then the next planet we're moving on to is the moon. So the sign rulership, the moon is the ruler of Cancer. And when you're looking at a birth chart, the natural house that Cancer rules is the 4th house. And then just some little notes here about the moon. So the moon represents your emotional energy, conscious mind, habits, and your comfort zone. Also, what makes you feel content and secure. And also, I put a note here, and I remember why I did that. That lunar energy is shifty, meaning the moon energy. I've actually been, as of late, just being cognizant of where the moon is and my emotions and how I'm feeling. It's sort of like the tides. So And I will say, I think if because I never used to do that. Like I never really, I won't say that I didn't care, but because astrology is something that is very important to me, all of these things play a factor. So always remember that the lunar energy is shifty, or I guess in closing with that, the thing that pops up into my mind is a full moon. You know how they say, oh, it's a full moon, everybody's acting crazy? Lunar energy is shifty. So, and also the moon changes signs approximately every 2.5 days. And then also had a note here that says patterns. So as I was saying that I have been just kind of being cognizant of where the moon is and my emotions and what's going on. So the next planet that we have here is the planet of Mercury. So the sign rulership, Mercury rules 2 signs, Gemini and Virgo, and the natural house for Gemini is the 3rd house. So the notes that I have here, so Mercury moves through the zodiac in about a year. Also interesting here, so Mercury is always near the sun. Since it's the first planet, it's no more than 28 degrees away from the sun, and it will either be in the same sign as the sun or the sign before so either Mercury will be in the same sign as the sun, or it'll be in the sign before the sun or after where the sun is. I thought that that was very interesting. Okay, and then now moving on to the next planet, which is Venus. So the sign rulership for Venus, Venus also rules 2 planets, or is the ruler of 2 signs, both Taurus and Libra. And the natural house for Taurus and Libra, well, the natural house for Taurus is the 2nd house, and then the natural house for Libra is the 7th house. And then just a couple of notes here about Venus. So Venus is the planet of love, close relationships, and personal resources, possessions, money, earning power. Venus is what you attract and how you interact with others. Also, Venus is never more than 48 degrees away from the sun. It's either in the same sign as the sun sign or in the sign before it or after. But I don't know if I wrote that down wrong, but also Venus goes into retrograde about every 18 months, in case you were not aware of that. And then the next planet we're going to talk about is Mars. So the sign rulership for Mars is Aries, and the natural house for Aries is the 1st house. And just a couple of notes here. Mars is where in your chart, where you direct your energy, what motivates you, where you show initiative. And also that Martian energy can either be constructive or destructive. So there's a lot that ties into that, and which we'll get into another time, but I'm just sharing the notes that I have in here. And also, okay, Mars, where your energy is directed, where you strive to succeed. So moving on to the next planet, which is one of my favorite planets. Well, all of them are my favorite, but Jupiter stands out because the number 4 is my favorite number, and the glyph for Jupiter, it looks like the number 4 to me. So the planet Jupiter. The sign rulership for Jupiter is Sagittarius. The natural house is the 9th house. Jupiter is known as the great benefic planet or lucky charm. Jupiter in your chart would be where I guess it says the greatest luck occurs. But you know what? There was something, just really quickly. Let me find where that is in the book, because there was something else about Jupiter. I feel like I'm not elaborating enough on Jupiter's power. So let's see. Give me just a second here. Let me see. Okay, I did not plan on this, but I'm not in a rush right now, and I want to make sure that Jupiter gets its due. Okay, let's see. Okay, just a few other things about Jupiter. Okay, so Jupiter is also associated with higher education, travel, optimism, extravagance, opportunity, publishing, confidence, generosity, and success. So I just wanted to give a few extra things about Jupiter. Okay, and then now moving on to Saturn. Okay, so the sign rulership for Saturn is Capricorn, and the natural house for Capricorn is the 10th house, which the 10th house involves like a career, status, things of that nature. Okay, and then I put a note here. Per the author, Saturn needs a public relations agent. And I kind of laughed at that because Saturn is known like this stringent like structure and you know, like how would I say it? Okay, so it's associated with hard lessons. And then there's also a quote here. So the more thoroughly and completely you fulfill Saturn's expectations, the greater reward. Saturn recognizes hard work. It's a universal planet of career, status, and business. Saturn also represents delays, obstacles, patience, caution, humility, endurance, and sincerity. And then what else? Oh, and then also Saturn retrogrades 4.5 months out of the year. Okay, and then now moving on to Uranus. Okay, so the sign rulership for Uranus is Aquarius. The natural house is the 11th house. Uranus is where the planet is like where you would seek your freedom, opportunity, independence. What do you rebel against? Where are you unconventional? Where can you expect things to change? Certain events. Those are things that are going to be associated with Uranus. Also, where you feel free to express your individuality. Let me see. Oh, and then also Uranus's disruptive influence has a purpose. So it's basically out with the old to make room for progress. Uranus is deemed future oriented and it spends about is that 9 years in each sign? I have to check my notes. Let me see how long it takes for Uranus. Okay, so it spends about 9 years in each sign, and it retrograde. The Uranus retrogrades last about 5 months. Okay, and then next we have Neptune. So the sign rulership for Neptune is Pisces. The natural house that Pisces rules is the 12th house in the birth chart. With Neptune, could be prone to illusion and deception. Neptune is also about what inspires you, planet of illusion and confusion, but also vision and creativity. It also encourages self-expression through imagination, artistic endeavors, compassion, music, and spirituality. I had put a note here just when I was just reading more in depth about Neptune, and I put a handful of fog. So even though Neptune obviously is more expansive than just a handful of fog, that's the note that I put here. And it spends about 14 years in a sign, and it goes retrograde about 5 months out of the year. Okay, and then last but not least, we have one of my favorite planets, and that is the planet of Pluto. Now, I do have quite a couple of notes here for Pluto, so I'm just going to well, I know what I want to start out in speaking with Pluto. So Pluto, I can't remember, I don't know if I wrote it down here or not, but Pluto was downgraded to be, and it's considered like a dwarf planet. But I will say this, even though it is considered a dwarf planet, the thought that came to my mind, because Pluto it's sitting up there in the solar system and all of these things, that just because Pluto was kicked out of the family doesn't mean that Pluto does not exist, and it doesn't mean that the energies are not emanating. So that's what I wanted to say in regards to Pluto. Well, that was my little note here. Okay, so sign rulership is Scorpio. The natural house that Scorpio rules on the birth chart is the 8th house. And let me see. Okay, so Pluto rules massive change, money, power, occult, recycling, inheritance, dictators, crime and corruption, research, subconscious, reproductive organs, willpower, transformation, elimination, power, and control. Also, some of my notes here. Okay, so Pluto is pure power and transformation. It's a dwarf planet, but it operates on a grand scale. Represents generations of people and the big events that tend to affect their lives. Pluto is the great transformer. It destroys old to make room for the new. I guess another way you could look at it, as I put notes here, closet cleaning. Plutoing your wardrobe. I guess Pluto is coming in and Plutoing out your life. So Pluto is huge, big transformation. Also, like when you're thinking about Pluto, it could also, like when you're thinking about it, like companies restructuring, takeovers of countries, natural disasters that level, like a natural disaster that level part of a city, things out of individuals' control, people being left victimized. So just basically, when Pluto is coming in, I'm going to be talking about that in the future. Pluto comes in and, I don't know if wreaks havoc is the right word, but Pluto is coming in to tear everything down, to rebuild. I know that that's scary to some people, but Plutonian energy is very necessary, and I'm going to get into that. It is very necessary, as with all the other planets and the energies that we experience. It's all necessary, and it's for the greater good. Also, okay, I have a note here. Okay, so through the uncomfortability, Pluto leaves an opportunity more often than not that is positive. Okay, so perfect. So that touches on exactly what I was just talking about. Also, the Pluto position in your birth chart represents where you choose to take charge or subconsciously become a victim. And it stays in a sign anywhere between 14 to 30 years. Okay, so that is my little touch on some of the energies that are associated with the planet. Um, and so the next thing that, because I can see according to my notes here, that we're going to move into is we're going to be talking about planetary powers. So I'm just going to leave this here. I do just want to say to whoever watches this video, um, like I said, I'm just here just to share the information that I'm getting. And once I do become a certified astrologer, I am totally looking forward to helping anyone who wants an astrology reading. But I'm not at that point yet, but soon enough I will be. So again, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to what I wanted to share. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And remember, it's in the stars.